All right, multicolor and colorless. And I guess I'll throw in the lands as well. So, Cephalopod Sentry. These are reviewed for standard, of course. 4 mana flyer, and the Sentry's power is equal to the number of artifacts you control. So, could be quite strong in terms of power. And the toughness is pretty hefty on this for 4 mana. Unfortunately, we do have Brotherhood's End in the format, so most likely not see play him. It is actually a 1/5 though baseline because of its artifacts typing as well. So kind of interesting. Weird one. Could see play if an artifact deck is good enough, but Brotherhood's End, Farewell, probably not very likely. Brotherhood doesn't get this? Yeah, but it gets all the other artifacts. Do you even care about a 1/5 at that point? Okay. Malcator, Purity Overseer. 3 mana. So Azorius creature. 1/1. Oh, I like this card. Yeah. 1/1 enters the battlefield, makes a 3/3. And at the beginning of your end step, if there are if 3 or more artifacts enter the battlefield under your control this turn, you make another 3/3. At the beginning of each end step, by the way. Each of your end steps. So you could technically make a 3/3 every turn if you manage to get 3 or more artifacts on the battlefield. Pretty damn good. Like, really good enabler. Like, very good stats for 3. Very threatening. I like it. Kaito. The Dimir Planeswalker. Whenever one or more creatures you control deals combat damage to a player, you return one of them to its owner's hand. If you do, you may activate loyalty abilities of Kaito twice this turn rather than once. And +1 up to 1 target creature can't attack or block until next turn. So it has 3 loyalty baseline. +1 brings it to 4. Up to 1 target creature can't attack or block until next turn. That's really good. Until your next turn, so that disables their attack as well. So it's very relevant. 0, draw a card, and -2, create a 2/2 colorless drone artifact creature token with the Death Touch. Whenever this creature leaves the battlefield, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. I've already reviewed this once, and I guess I'll just sum it up real quick. This is very good, but 4 mana Planeswalkers have to do quite a bit, I think, to be relevant in this format. So most likely, this will probably not see play because it's very specified. It's a very specific archetype. You want creatures that either ninjutsu or ETB or something like that to like return them to your hand to gain that value and then draw an extra card off Kaito or disable another attacker from your opponent. Making the 2/2 Death Touch is really nice, but it doesn't really protect itself that well because it's a grounded creature. So overall, good card. It's got a lot of things going for it. It's just very specific, and it doesn't seem to be like a catch-all, so it doesn't seem to be versatile enough to see play overall. But it could see play in like the right deck. But Venser, Corpse Puppet, Lifelink Toxic. It's a 2 mana 1/3 legendary creature. Whenever you proliferate, choose one. If you don't control a creature named the Hollow Sentinel, you make the Hollow Sentinel. It's a 3/3 colorless Phyrexian Golem artifact creature. 3/3 artifact creature, essentially. And then if you proliferate and you already control it, target artifact creature you control gains flying and lifelink until end of turn, which is really good. So both of these effects are fantastic and means that this card is most likely playable in a Dimir deck that wants to proliferate. Now, whether that deck is good or not, I would lean towards probably not. But we'll see. 2 mana, Flying Toxic 1. Whenever you proliferate, return Voidwing Hybrid from your graveyard to your hand. And it's a 2 mana 2/1 flyer. Okay, this is the card we were missing. This, I think, is the card that enables the entire archetype of Dimir Toxic. So it's actually not a control deck. It's a tempo deck, or maybe a mid-range deck. I'm not sure. I think it's more of a tempo deck, but pretty weak stats though. I feel like this should try to be played. This should be core in that deck, but I'm not sure. I think this is the best way to enable Toxic on a flyer, a cheap flyer, and it has that bonus of coming back. So, and you're going to be proliferating. So yeah, I do think this is, yeah. I don't think the Toxic art, the Toxic. Now I understand how they priced everything and how they designed everything. They did not design it around control at all. They designed it around tempo or mid range. Yeah, this illuminates a lot of their design philosophy behind the proliferate toxic black blue cards. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's why the control cards, quote unquote, seemed bad. It's because it's not for control. That's why we have sorcery speed -4/-4, because in a tempo deck, you're going to be tapping out as well. So it doesn't matter if it's sorcery or instant as much. Anyways, Charforger, 3 mana, Rakdos, 2/3, and when it enters the battlefield, you make a 1/1 red Phyrexian Goblin creature token. Okay. Whenever another creature or artifact you control is put into the graveyard, you put an oil counter on Charforger. What? Charforger. Remove 3 oil counters. Exile the top card of your library. You may play that card. It's 3 oil counters. Nah. Too much. Cathek, Crucible Goliath, 4 mana Rakdos, 4/4, legendary creature. At the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a non-legendary creature with lesser mana value. Put it onto the battlefield. Then put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Very interesting. Very good with enter the battlefield effects, cycling through your enter the battlefield effects, filling your graveyard. Synergy with the whole putting creatures in graveyards that we like the card we saw previously or prior to this one. So yeah, this might enable some archetype, maybe, and it's a very good card. So a little bit low stat line in terms of standard when we're seeing a bunch of 5/5s and 4/5 for 4, so that might hold it back. We'll see. Yoinking opponents' creatures and sacking them. There's no real good yoink spell though. Cinderclash Ravager, 6 mana. Cool creature, costs 1 less for each permanent you control with oil counters. Okay. Vigilance. When it enters the battlefield, deals 1 damage to each creature your opponent controls. Okay, well, I mean, yeah, it's probably not good, but cool card. Luca, Bound to Ruin. Honestly, at this point, I might just say go watch my Planeswalker review video, but I think since I have extra context now, I can comment on this a little more. Okay, Luca, Bound to Ruin completed. It costs 3, so it costs 2 colorless, 1 red, 1 Phyrexian red-green, and 1 green. So 5 mana or 4 mana into life. For 4 mana, it comes in with 3 loyalty, and for 5 mana, it comes in with 5. +1, add green-red, spend this only to cast creature spells or activate ability of creatures. -3, create a 3/3 Phyrexian Beast creature token, toxic 1. And -4, Luca deals X damage divided as you choose among any number of target creatures and or planeswalkers, where X is the greatest power among creatures you controlled as you activate the ability. So Gruul aggro with Thrun is a potential archetype. In that deck, I would maybe consider playing this in the sideboard. I think the overall abilities of Luca are a little bit clunky. The plus is good, but in Gruul you tend to run out of cards, so eventually that plus is essentially doing nothing unless you have activated abilities. I can't really think of many activated abilities. The -1 is good, but a little bit costly on the loyalty of Luca, especially for 4. You're going down to 2 loyalty, but still good. It's still very good. So the -3, the -1 is good. The -4 is potentially insane, but also potentially completely useless. So, and for -4, it's a little bit risky. Like, as in, you might be losing the Luca by -4ing. So Like, assuming you did like a -1 and then you want a -4 to deal with something, it's a little bit rough. I think the card is really good, but will it see play? Probably not, if I had to guess. Sideboard, maybe. Main deck, maybe not. Maybe in a Gruul Ramp, though, an archetype that I'm not really thinking about that can use the -4 quite well. But for 5 mana, or even 4 mana, +1, you'd have to cast something immediately, essentially, to protect this, or have a board state already. So it's coming in, +1, you get to 4 loyalty, and then plus the next turn, then you get to cast your bomb, potentially, and that could be good. So maybe Gruul Ramp is actually a thing. Hard to say. Migloz Maze Crusher for a 3 mana 4/4, which is insane. Enters the battlefield with 5 oil counters on it. Remove an oil counter from it. Migloz gains Vigilance and Menace until end of turn. That's really good. 2, remove 2 oil counters from Migloz. Gains +2/+2 until end of turn. That's okay. Kind of flexible, so good. Probably not the best ability. Remove 3 oil counters and pay 3 from Migloz. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. This is fantastic. So this is very, 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 very good. But it's legendary, so like this card is very solid. Very good stats. Very good abilities. Very flexible. A 1-card combat trick, as in like it can't really be blocked if it has oil counters, because you could just pay 2 and just kind of crush them. You can pay 2 twice even and just completely demolish them if they try to like triple block or something. Like they're always in danger. It's not just activate once each turn, so very dangerous. Lukka makes sense with Migloz. With the activated abilities. Kind of, but it's losing oil counters, so it's not infinite, but you're right. Yeah, it can now. So like Migloz into Lukka ++2/+2 potential. No, the mana doesn't stay, so This makes that 5/5 CODT Gruul mana only. Wait, I don't understand. I don't know what CODT is. Oh, cost. That makes that 5/5 cost Gruul mana only. What 5/5? This thing? Each permanent? No, each permanent you control with oil counters on it. Otherwise, that would have been insane. Yeah, it costs 5. Malira, the Living Cure. I think I didn't skip anything. Yeah. Okay. 2 mana 3/3. Oh, this is insane. 2 mana Selesnya. This is what I'm thinking. Like maybe Selesnya is actually playable, and then you can play that 4/7 reach thing. I don't know. So 2 mana 3/3 is insane. If you would get 1 or more poison counters, instead you get 1 poison. Instead you get 1 poison counter, and you can't get additional poison counters this turn. That's pretty decent. And you can exile it, choose another creature or artifact. When it's put into graveyard, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. Very good. Like, really, really good. This should remove poison counters. So if you get poison counters, remove 1 instead. That would be insane. But sure. Very good. Very good. Very playable. If Selesnya is good. It will 100% see play if Selesnya is good. Alright. 2 mana Toxic 2. Whenever another creature you control with toxic attacks, it gets another creature. Unfortunate. Very unfortunate. Gets +1/+1. Pretty okay though. Maybe playable with the mites. Like having all the mites get +1/+1 for 2 mana is pretty good. But if it buffed itself, now we're talking. Unfortunate. Kaya Intangible Slayer. A 7 mana Planeswalker, Orzhov. Has hexproof, 6 loyalty, +2 each opponent loses 3 life and you gain 3 life. So drain 3. And 0, you may draw 2, then each opponent may scry 1. No, you draw 2, then I was like, what? Then each opponent may scry 1, sure. And -3, exile target creature enchantment. If it wasn't an aura, create a token that's a copy of it, except it's a 1/1 white spirit token with white spirit creature with flying in addition to its other types. So this is a relatively powerful planeswalker, but it costs 7, so that's why I said relatively. 7 mana planeswalker. It does things. It does good things. Now for 7 mana, that's going to be rough against counter spells. So if no counter spells are present in standard, as in no blue decks are viable, this might see play. But it's extremely expensive, so it'd probably have to be in a ramp deck. And that means it would have to be in green. That means it would have to be probably Abzan or Mardu, I guess. You can ramp with treasures. It's not bad. It's just very clunky and very expensive. So I mean I love this card, but I hope it's playable. We'll see. Rhea, Ivor, Bane of Bladehold, 4 mana Orzhov, 3/4 legendary creature. Battle Cry. Whenever this creature attacks, each other attacking creature gets +1/+0. At the beginning of combat on your turn, the next time target creature would deal damage to one or more players this combat. Prevent that damage. If damage is prevented this way, create that many 1/1 colorless might tokens. So you can disable damage from your creature if it deals damage to a player. And if you prevent that damage, then you create a bunch of mites instead, which is usually not good. But with Battle Cry, it's a little better. So this is difficult to evaluate. I do not know if an Orzhov Might deck is going to be a thing. And ideally, you'd want like a flyer on turn 3 to go in for like 2 damage, make 2 mites, and then turn after that, you just go in. So you kind of want a flying creature instead of a grounded one so you can actually hit. But a lot of text. Yeah, a lot of text. Effect is nice. I don't know if Orzhov's going to be viable, though. Orzhov creature-based. Vivisection Evangelist. 5 mana, 4/4 Vigilance Corrupted. They have 3 or more poison counters. Destroy target creature, planeswalker, and opponent controls. What? Wow. I mean, that's really insane. I didn't expect it. I thought it was going to be like kind of a meme card because it's an uncommon. It depends how easy you can get poison counters in Orzhov, though. I don't think it's that easy. I really don't think it's that easy with mites. But I mean, 5 mana, 4/4 vigilance, and you destroy a creature. That's like insane value. Or planeswalker too. That's really good. That's evaluated assuming you always have 3 or more poison counters, which is probably not going to be the case in Orzhov. So it's probably bad. But if you always have 3 or more poison counters, this is insane. This will see play. Ovika Enigma Goliath. 7 mana flying, ward 3, pay 3. So it's not a great ward. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create a X/1/1 Phyrexian Goblin creature tokens where X is the mana value of that spell. They gain haste until end of turn. Kind of terrible. Like, actually bad. When we have that dragon, what is it? What's that dragon? That 4 mana 4/4 that makes dragon tokens with haste? 4 mana. Like, this is just straight up worse. Like, actually worse. Because in an archetype where you want your things to have haste, it means you're playing like kind of an aggressive slant, right? You want to finish off your opponent. So it's essentially the same amount of damage you're getting, except obviously those tokens get exiled end of turn, I think. But you dealt the damage. Like, that's the entire point. And it costs 3 mana less. Terrible. And the ward sucks, yeah. Everything about this card is terrible, I think. Kind of embarrassing that they would design something like that and slap a rare on it. Like, come on. Basically only a reanimator target. Yeah, it's not a good one. It's not a good one at all. There's so many better 7-drops to reanimate. Terrible. Like, one of the worst creatures I've ever seen, I think. That's that rarity. 4 mana, 2/4 flyer. When you cast a non-creature spell, put an oil counter on it. Remove 3 oil counters from Serum Core Chimera. Draw a card, then discard an online card. When you discard a card this way, it deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker. Activate only as a sorcery. That's decent, but it takes too long to get going, I think. But to be fair, this might actually have some potential to see play. Yeah, probably not. It's 4 mana, 2/4, yeah. Probably not. But the effect is strong. Very strong. But it takes too long as stat line too weak. 4 mana too. Pay 3 mana and 3 life. Why does it still suck? What? Even ward 3 mana 3 life, it's not good because it's 7 mana. So the problem is at 7 mana they don't care about ward 3. That's the reason the 4 mana dragon is better. It's just because even if it doesn't have ward, well, you cast it for 4, you didn't cast it for 7. So it's the ward is included in the cost, which is usually bad. That's the problem is when you have a creature that's already doing what it's doing, but it's as cheap as the ward cost is, there's no point in playing that other creature. Okay, anyways. Glissa, Sunslayer. 3. Okay, this card's insane. 3 mana, 3/3 in Golgari colors. First strike, death touch. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, choose 1. Draw a card, lose 1 life, destroy enchantment, remove up to 3 counters from target permanent. This. So you can counter poison counters naturally. Like, it's just so good. But it's a 3 mana 3/3, so I don't know. I don't know, man. Maybe sideboard card against mid-range creature decks that don't have good removal. Like against mono green, they just lose the game against this pretty much. Doesn't remove poison counters. Oh, from target permanent, not player. My bad. Yeah. Imagine removing counters from sagas. Yeah. Honestly, it should remove. I feel like it should say permanent or player. Like, why does it? I mean, it would be. I don't know. At this point, you might as well, right? But yeah, sure. This card's really good, but I don't know. Kind of a like Golgari is usually not great, especially because 3/3 is not the best stats to dodge removal, but it dodges cut down. So who knows? Yeah, first strike death touch is like the best creature combination, the best keywords for creatures. So it's already insane as is, but you know, it'll have its matchups, but it'll also have a lot of matchups where it just dies, which is also fine because it has high upside anyways. So like, if it dies, it dies, and if it lives, you win the game pretty much. All right, Rot Priest is a 4 mana 1/5 with Toxic 2, and whenever a creature you control with Toxic deals combat to a player, that player gets an additional poison counter. Oh my goodness. And 3 mana target creature, 3 mana activate ability, target creature you control with Toxic gains death touch. Ooh. Surprising. So they get an additional poison counter for each proc of Toxic, right? Yeah, whenever a creature. That's so with 5 toxic creatures, you would kill your opponent immediately. Or... Oh, it can give itself death touch to deal toxic too. That's okay. Maybe Sultai toxic is a thing with this thing. A little clunky, but I just don't know if this kind of strategy is better than just playing Shield Red and just dealing damage. I don't know. And Tivar, Jubilant Brawler. 3 mana, Golgari, 3 loyalty planeswalker. And you may activate abilities of creatures you control as though those creatures had haste, +1 on tap up to 1 target creature, and -2 mill 3 cards. Then you may return a creature card with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. I don't want to repeat everything I said in that planeswalker video. This card is definitely not for standard, I think. So I'm gonna leave it at that. If you want to hear my thoughts about it on potential other formats, and go right ahead. I think it has a lot of potential. It's a really interesting card. It has a lot of very interesting things it can do in specific decks, but I don't think those decks will be relevant in standard. So I'm kind of just gonna skip over it. But it's a very cool card, and it's probably overpowered in some way or another in some format. Bladehold War Whip. 3 mana, 4 Marauders, so you make a 2/2. Equip abilities you activate of other equipment cost 1 less to activate, and creature has double strike. Equip 5. This is very insane for the equipment deck. If that deck is a thing, this will see play. Otherwise, I won't see play. Troy Kadeen, first Gold Warden. 2 mana, 2/2. Legendary creature. So in Boros colors. Trample whenever Jor Kadim at first Gold Warden attacks gets +X until end of turn, where X is the amount of equipped creatures you control. Then, if Jor Kadim's power is 4 or greater, draw a card. Pretty good effects. Trample is good. Uh, ah. So you need 2 equipped creatures. Number of equipped creatures, so not the same one either. Assuming you curve this out with the previous equipment, it would be a 3/3, which is not there to get the card, but still, 2 mana 3/3 Trampler is good. Good see play. The problem is it's legendary, so it's a little bit weird when you draw multiple, but probably still good enough in that deck. Nahiri the Unforgiving. This is another Planeswalker that I think is not relevant at all in standard. So I think I'm unfortunately just gonna skip over. If you want to hear my thoughts about it, go ahead and check out that Planeswalker review video that I made earlier. But this is like too much. I don't know if I want to go into this card again. I think I had a lot to say about it. But essentially it's very, very specific. It's a very niche card. It's only good in a very specific type of deck. And I don't want to go over exactly what could potentially be good with it or not, so I'm going to skip over it. Azuri, Stalker of Spheres, 4 mana, 3/3, legendary creature. But essentially, just real quick, I do think it's unplayable in standard, so there you go. But it might see play, I don't know. Azuri, Stalker of Spheres, 4 mana, 3/3 Simic creature. Legendary. When it enters the battlefield, you may pay 3 if you do proliferate twice. When you proliferate, draw a card. Probably not playable. Way too expensive. Unless you have an effect that can proliferate once it enters the battlefield. So the 4/4. Curving out the 4/4 into this, but that's such like Disneyland scenario. I don't know. Tainted Observer, 3 mana, 2/3 flying, toxic 1. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 2. If you do, proliferate. Again, flying with toxic is really insane. And proliferating for 2 every time a creature enters the battlefield could be interesting, but your deck would have to be pretty cheap. So Sultai with that 2/1 flyer would be pretty interesting because you can get it back after it proliferates, so you can like loop. Has potential. I think 3 mana 2/3 flyer is kind of weak though with cut down in the meta. Attracts that Grand Unifier. So 7 mana. 4 colors. So 3, a green, a white, a blue, and a black. Legendary creature. 7/7 flying vigilance, death touch, lifelink. When it enters the battlefield, reveal the top 10 cards of your library. For each card type, you may put a card type of that type among the revealed cards into your hand, rest at the bottom of your library. So draws you on average, I would say 3 to 4 cards. Probably 4 average. If you build around it, probably 4. It's not bad. No, it's really no, I'm not joking. It's not bad. The card advantage on a creature is usually very good, especially a creature that is this threatening. But I mean, it dies easily, but you don't really care about that. And if it lives, it's huge upside. That touch is a little bad. Why did they put that touch on? It's probably just a flavor thing, but that touch on from a balance perspective is just kind of useless. But yeah, I kind of like it. Like, it's not hard to splash a black in a Bant deck. Especially with that ramp card that can look at top 6. And then just put 2 lands on the battlefield. You can put like a Triumph or something. I think there are reasons to splash back. You've got Tear. Is that it? Maybe that's it, actually. I don't know. Oh, Atraxa always has those 4 abilities. Yeah, I knew it was a flavor slash lore thing, so yeah, I didn't really question it. But from a balance perspective, it doesn't really make any sense. But they're not focused on that. Okay, so now colorless. I'm gonna skip these. They're not relevant. I don't know why I opened them. All right, Skitterfang, 3 mana, 2/2. Enters the battlefield with 3 oil counters. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you can remove an oil counter from this creature. When you do, target creature you control gains choice of flying, vigilance, death touch, or lifelink. 3 mana 2/2. So weak though. Probably terrible, but insane and limited. Holy. Graz, Unstoppable Juggernaut. Legendary artifact creature, 8 mana 7/5. Juggernauts you control attack each combat if able. Juggernauts you control can't be blocked by walls. Other creatures you control have base power, toughness 5/3, and are juggernauts in addition to the other types. I mean, this is something I want to play. I want to try because a might deck, with this thing is kind of funny. But it will probably just die or get countered or get exiled from the graveyard when I'm trying to bring it back. It's probably terrible, but I will try to make it work. Anyways, there's not much to say about this card. Argentum Masticore, a 5 mana 5/5 first strike protection from multicolor, very good. Beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice it unless you discard a card. When you discard a card this way, destroy target non-permanent opponent controls with mana value less or equal than the mana value of the discarded card. This card is bad, I want to say. I don't know. Yeah. I don't think this card's good. You're gonna sacrifice it when you're out of cards. Like it's not post draw, so nah, it's bad. It's unfortunately it's just too clunky. Like you don't want to discard lands to it because it doesn't destroy anything. If you're discarding spells to destroy, it's also it could be fine, but it depends what you're discarding and what you're destroying. So it's very conditional, it's very situational. The card itself, First Strike, doesn't really do that much. It's fine in combat, but doesn't actually race that well. It's not like it has Trample, which would have been insane. Protection from multicolor is pretty irrelevant in Standard, especially with all the monocolored stuff we're getting here. Most removal is monocolored, like a Braid. Yeah. Acreplate Golem is a 3 mana 2/3 artifact creature. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, if it has 1 or more oil counters on it, put an oil counter on it. Put another oil counter on it. Creatures with oil counters on them get +1/+1. Whoa. I don't understand this. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, if it has 1 or more, but how do creatures have oil counters on them? Oh, some enter the battlefield with oil counters? Weird. Masticore? I don't know. Sacrifice unless you discard a card. 4 mana 4/4. Doesn't seem very good. Power Creep SLM. Oh, used to be playable? Okay. This card might be playable. 2/3 Anthem effect is insane. Now I don't remember what creatures had oil counters coming in, but this is like actually insane. Like the value on this is really high. I don't know if you can curve out 1-drop, 2-drop. Oh, you can. There's that. Isn't there that 1/1 that gets bigger? But I don't know what you would curve out after this, so there might be something going on with that golem. Miran Safe House. 3 mana artifact. As long as Miran Safe House on the battlefield has all activated abilities of all land cards and graveyards. Monument to perfection. 2 mana artifact. 3 and tap. Search your library for a basic sphere or locust land card. Reveal it, put it in your hand. So locust, and sphere. Let's review those right now, actually. Sphere. Okay, where? Okay, there we go. So Mirex, add colorless, add 1 mana of any color activate only if Mirrex enters the battlefield this turn. 3 and tap, create a 1/1 might. Fine, pretty good actually. This is not it. Monumental Facade. Enters the battlefield with 2 oil counters on it. Add colorless or remove an oil counter, put an oil counter on target artifact or creature you control. That's decent as well. Mycosynth Gardens. Add colorless or 1 in tap. Add 1 mana of any color. X in tap. Mycosynth Gardens becomes a copy of target non-token artifact you control with mana value X. But it's not still a land, right? No, it's not still a land. Decent. Seed Core. Add colorless, add 1 mana of any color, spend this mana only to cast Phyrexian creatures. Ooh. Corrupted. Tap, target 1/1 creature gets +2/+1 activate. That's not great. +2/+1. But the land itself is okay, I guess. These are very hard to evaluate, I'm not gonna lie. I think, let me find the card we were at. God damn it. Okay. So let's see. Monument to Perfection becomes a 9/9 for 3 mana. Construct artifact creature loses all activated abilities and gains indestructible and toxic 9. Activate only if there are 9 or more lands with different names among basic, sphere, and locust land you control. 9 or more lands. Okay. Yeah, this is just unplayable. In standard, I think. Mirror Convert, Toxic 1/2/1, 2 mana 2/1, pay 2 life, add 1 mana of any color. Ooh. Interesting. Pay 2 life is a hefty price for mana though, but it's okay. Mirror Custodian, 3 mana 2/3. When it enters the battlefield, scry 2, then each opponent may scry 1. What? Terrible. But it's a common, right? Yeah. Enters the battlefield, you search your library for a mirror card. Fill it, put it in your hand. Very good and limited. Atlas. 3 mana, add 1 mana of any color. And whenever, so tap, add 1 mana. And whenever it becomes tapped, each opponent who has 3 or more poison counters loses 1 life. Oh, yes. Pretty good. But it's not as good as Celestis. Prophetic Prism. 2 mana, enters the battlefield, draw a card, and you can... Oh, this is really good. Yeah, but this is a reprint, right? Prophetic Injector. Creature gets... So, 1 mana equipment. Equip creature gets O and +0/+2. It has Toxic 1, equip 1. That's really good in Libidoli. Rib Skip. What? 4 mana artifact vehicle with Toxic 2. First vehicle with Toxic. But I mean, first vehicle of the set, I guess. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card. Whoa. Crew of 3. This skip. It's okay. Draw card is insane though, but 2 mana. 0/4. Soulless Jailer. Permanent cards in graveyards can't enter the battlefield, and players can't cast non-creature spells from the graveyard to exile. That is probably terrible because it's tied to a creature. Staff of Completion. 3 mana artifacts. You can pay 1 life and tap it. Destroy target permanent you own. What? Pay 2 life. Add 1 mana of any color. Ouch. Pay 3 life, proliferate. Pay 4 life, draw a card. What in the heavens is this? 5 mana, untapped Staff of Completion. Is there an infinite with this, or what? Is there an infinite where every time you tap an artifact, you gain 1 life or something, and then I mean, what would you even do? Like, what's the infinite? Proliferate? Okay, so, but you have to pay 5 to untap it. It's useless. so bad. You have to pay 5. It's like maybe if you had to pay like 5 life to untap it, that would be really interesting because maybe there's like some infinite life gain shenanigans or like you can't lose the game and then you infinite this thing and just poison counter there. Yeah, it's like 5 mana is too much to untap this. You don't even want to untap it. Destroy target permanent you own. Okay, dude. Only good in Death Shadow for 3 mana though? I don't think so. Sword of Forge and Frontier, another mythic. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has protection from red and green. No! Why? Why? Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, exile top 2 cards of your library. You may play those cards this turn. Play additional land this turn. Very interesting. Why protection from red and green? Like the weakest creature archetypes. But I guess protection from red I'm okay with because I have removal, I guess, but protection from green is like, why? Green is already the bad spot. But this is still not playable, right? Maybe an equipment deck, though? That can win them the game in this matchup? Kind of yikes, though. Protection from green is not what you want to see as a green player. Have a sword with 2 other colors? Doubt it, but maybe. Tablet of Completion, 2 mana artifact. Put an oil counter on Tablet of Completion by tapping it. You can tap it to add a colorless. Activate only if tablet has 2 or more oil counters on it. And you can pay 1, tap it, draw a card only if it has 5 or more oil counters on it. Okay, so this is not made to be just purely played by itself. It needs to proliferate, otherwise it's useless, or a way to add oil counters. And in that case, it is mediocre. So it's probably bad. Actually, I don't know. It could maybe see play, maybe. No, probably not. But I'm just thinking like just some potential there, but it's kind of it's very clunky. Silex, 2 mana, legendary artifact. Put an oil counter on Silex by tapping it. Tap and sacrifice it. Destroy each non-land permanent with mana value equal to the number of oil counters on filigree Silex. So this is like the bomb thing. Remove 10 oil counters from among permanents you control and sacrifice Silex. It deals 10 damage to any target. So a better bomb. La Bomba. Just power creep the bomb. I mean, why not? The Bomba's a good card, right? I don't think the 10 oil counter thing is relevant, but what I mean, the bomb, the ratchet bomb. It's the reason to play oil in standard. This thing? You mean controlling oil? Because all oil decks so far seem to be aggro decks. Okay, Zenith Chronicler. 2 mana, 3/1 rare, by the way. Whenever a player casts their first multicolored spell each turn, each other player draws a card and wins. Commander! What the? Okay, fast lands. So we've got blue, white, which is insane. Another one, we got black, blue, which is also really good in the Toxic Proliferate deck, I think. So fast lands enter the battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or fewer lands. So, other lands, by the way, so it can come down on turn 3 untapped. Black, red, which is also decent. Red, green, which is insane. And white, green, which is also insane. So they're all good. But I mean, all fast lands. Like now that I'm seeing like the aggro potential of all of these colors, I understand why they printed these first. There's a lot here. There's a lot going on. But yeah, that's gonna do it. Blue-White Soldiers is insane, man. Yeah, it's insane. Like it's ridiculous. It's already almost perfect. I would say. I would say it's perfect right now, but proof it's not perfect is that they're missing the fast lands. They'll get even better. They don't have to take pain land damage. Potentially they can remove the pain lands. That would be insane. No, they can remove the slow lands, which I think is what's hurting them more than anything. Really interesting. All right. Anyways, that is going to do it for this review.